About not hitting the trees, I hope. Silly Bella, he chuckled. Running is second nature to me. It's not something I have to think about. Show off, I muttered again. He smiled. No, he continued. I was thinking there was something that I wanted to try. And he took my face in his hand again. I couldn't breathe. He hesitated, not in the normal way, the human way, not the way a man might hesitate before he kissed a woman to gauge her reaction, to see how he would be received. Perhaps he would hesitate to prolong the moment, the idea moment of anticipation, sometimes better than the kiss itself. Edward hesitated to test himself, to see if this was safe, to make sure he was still in control of his need. And then his cold marble lips pressed very softly against mine. What neither of us were prepared for was my response. Blood boiled under my skin, burned in my lips. My breath came in a wild gasp, my fingers knotted in his hair, clutching him to me. My lips parted as I breathed in his heavy scent. Immediately, I felt them turn into unresponsive stone beneath my lips. His hands gently, but with irresistible force, pushed my face back. I opened my eyes and saw his guarded expression. Oops, I breathed. That's an understatement. His eyes were wild, his jaw clenched in acute restraint. Yet he didn't lapse from his perfect articulation. He held his face just inches from his. He dazzled my eyes. Should I tried to disengage myself to give him some room. His hands refused to let me move so much as an inch. No, it's tolerable. Wait for a moment, please. His voice was polite, controlled. I kept my eyes on his. We watched as the excitement of them faded and gentled. Then he smiled, and a surprisingly impish grin. There, he said, obviously pleased with himself. Tolerable? I asked. He laughed out loud. I'm stronger than I thought. It's nice to know. I wish I could say the same. I'm sorry. You are only human after all. Thanks so much, I said, my voice acerbic. He was on his feet in one of his live, almost invisibly quick movements. He held out his hand to me, an unexpected gesture. I was so used to our standard of careful non-contact. I took his icy hand, needing the support more than I thought. My balance had not yet returned. Are you still faint from the run? Or was it my kissing expertise? How light-hearted, how human he seemed as he laughed now, his seraphic face untroubled. He was a different Edward than the one I had known, and I felt all the more besotted by him. It would cause me physical pain to be separated from him now. I can't be sure. I'm still woozy, I managed to respond. I think it's some of both, though. Maybe you should let me drive. Are you insane? I protested. I can drive better than you on your best day, he teased. You have much slower reflexes. I'm sure that's true, but I don't think my nerves or my truck could take it. Some trust, please, Bella. My hand was in my pocket, curled tightly around the key. I pursed my lips, deliberated, and then shook my head with a tight grin. Nope, not a chance. He raised his eyebrows in disbelief. I started to step around him, headed toward the driver's side. He might have let me pass if I hadn't wobbled slightly. Then again, he might not have. His arms created an inescapable snare around my waist. Bella, I've already expended a great deal of personal effort at this point to keep you alive. I'm not about to let you behind the wheel of a vehicle when you can't even walk straight. Besides, friends don't let friends drive drunk, he quoted with a chuckle. I could smell the unbearably sweet fragrance coming off his chest. Drunk? I objected. You're intoxicated by my very presence. He was grinning that playful smirk again. I can't argue with that, I sighed. There was no way around it. I couldn't resist him in anything. I held the key high and dropped it, watching his hand flash like lightning to catch it soundlessly. Take it easy. My check is a senior citizen. Very sensible, he approved. And are you not affected at all, I asked, irked by my presence? Again, his mobile features transformed. His expression became soft, warm. He didn't answer at first. He simply bent his face to mine and brushed his lips slowly along my jaw, from my ear to my chin, back and forth. I trembled. Regardless, he finally murmured, I have better reflexes. Chapter 14. Mind over Matter. He could drive well when he kept the speed reasonable, I had to admit. Like so many things, it seemed effortless to be effortless for him. He barely looked at the road, yet the tires never deviated so much as a centimeter from the center of the lane. He drove one-handed, holding my hand on the seat. Sometimes he gazed into the setting sun. Sometimes he glanced at me, my face, my hair blowing out the open window, our hands twined together. He turned the radio to an oldie station, and he sang along with the song I never heard. He knew every line. You like 50s music? I asked. Music in the 50s is good. Much better than the 60s or the 70s. Ugh. He shuddered. The 80s were unbearable. Are you ever going to tell me how old you are? I asked, tentative, not wanting to upset his buoyant humor. Does it matter much? His smile, to my release, remained unclouded. No, but I still wonder, I grimaced. There's nothing like an unsolved mystery to keep you up at night. I wonder if it'll upset you, he reflected to himself. He gazed into the sun. The minutes passed. Try me, I finally said. He sighed, and then looked into my eyes, seeming to forget the road completely for a time. Whatever he saw there must have encouraged him. He looked into the sun. The light of the setting orb glittered off his skin in booby-tin sparkles, and spoke. I was born in Chicago in 1901. He paused and glanced at me from the corner of his eyes. My face was carefully unsurprised, patient for the rest. He smiled a tiny smile and continued. Carlisle found me in the hospital in the summer of 1918. I was 17 and dying of the Spanish influenza. He heard my intake of breath, though it was barely audible to my own ears. He looked down into my eyes again. I don't remember it well. It was a very long time ago, and human memories fade. He was lost in his thoughts for a short time before he went on. I do remember how it felt when Carlo saved me. It's not an easy thing, not something you can forget. Your parents? They had already died from the disease. I was alone. That was why he chose me. In all the chaos of the epidemic, no one would ever realize I was gone. How did he save you? A few seconds passed before he answered. He seemed to choose his words carefully. It was difficult. Not many of us had the restraint necessary to accomplish it. But Carlisle had always been the most humane, the most compassionate of us. I don't think you can find his equal throughout all of history. He paused. For me, it was merely very, very painful. I could tell from the set of his lips he would say no more on the subject. I suppressed my curiosity, though it was far from idle. There are many things I needed to think through on this particular issue, things that were only beginning to occur to me. No doubt his quick mind had already complimented every aspect that already eluded me. His soft voice invaded my thoughts. He acted from loneliness. That's usually the reason behind the choice. I was the first in Carlisle's family, though he found Esme soon after. She fell from a cliff. They brought her straight to the hospital morgue, though somehow her heart was still beating.